The silver ship moved through space like a ghost. Its hull was smooth and clean, nothing like the rough metal ships that humans built. Strange symbols glowed along its sides in soft blue light. Inside the ship, Ambassador Zthar stood in front of a large window, looking at the yellow star ahead. His forearms were folded behind his back. His skin was gray and had small scales that caught the light. "Sir, we are getting close to their solar system," said his assistant. The assistant was from a different planet. She had green skin and large, black eyes. Her name was Yela, and she had been working with the ambassador for many years. Zthar nodded slowly. "Good. How long before we reach their world?" "2 more days, sir." "The humans call their star Sol and their planet Earth?" The ambassador smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Earth, what a simple name. These humans are so basic. Tell me again what our scouts found." Yela touched a device on her wrist. A blue screen appeared in the air between them. Pictures of human ships floated on the screen. The ships looked rough and ugly compared to the smooth alien vessel. "The humans just learned how to travel faster than light about 50 years ago," Yela said. "They have maybe 30 ships that can travel between stars. Most of them are for trade or exploring. They have no real military in space." Zthar looked at the pictures. The human ships had thick metal hulls with many small windows. Smoke came from the back of the ships. They looked like flying boxes with engines stuck on them. "These are their best ships?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Our scouts watched them for 20 years. The humans fight each other a lot on their planet, but they have no real space navy. Their biggest ship is only 300 meters long." The ambassador laughed. It sounded like rocks falling down a hill. 300 meters. Our ship is twice that size, and we are just a diplomatic vessel. The humans will be so amazed when they see us." Yela nodded. "Yes, sir." "Should I prepare the standard first contact package?" "Of course. Make sure you include the usual terms. They will become a client species under the protection of the Galactic Confederation. We will give them some basic technology in exchange for mining rights and trade agreements." The ambassador walked away from the window. The room around him was beautiful. The walls were made of white stone that glowed with soft light. Strange plants from many different worlds grew in pots around. The air smelled like flowers from his home planet. Zthar had done this many times before. In his long career, he had brought 37 different species into the Confederation. It was always the same. The new species would be excited to meet aliens. They would be grateful for the offer to join the galactic community. They would sign the agreements without reading them carefully. Then they would spend the next 100 years paying for the privilege of being protected. It was a good system. It kept peace in the galaxy. It made sure that dangerous species did not get weapons that could hurt others, and it made the Confederation very rich and powerful. "Sir," Yela said, "I have a question about the humans." "What is it?" "Our scouts say the humans are very violent. They fight wars all the time on their planet. Should we be worried about this?" Zthar waved one of his hands. "No, violence on a planet is very different from violence in space. These humans have no experience with real space combat. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships are slow and weak. Even if they wanted to fight us, they could not hurt our ship." The ambassador sat down in a chair that changed shape to fit his body. "Besides, once they see what we can offer them, they will be eager to cooperate. We will give them medicine that can cure their diseases. We will give them technology that can clean their polluted planet. We will give them energy sources that will last forever." What species would say no to such gifts? Yela looked at her notes. "The reports say humans are very proud, sir. They do not like to accept help from others." "Pride," Zthar said. "Yes, we have seen this before. Many species think they are special when they first learn about the galaxy, but pride does not feed starving people. Pride does not cure sick children. When we show them what we can do, their pride will disappear very quickly." The ship continued moving toward Earth. In the engine room, strange machines hummed with power. The ship used technology that humans could not even imagine. It could travel faster than light without making any noise. It could become invisible to most sensors. It carried weapons that could destroy a moon, but Zthar was not thinking about weapons. He was thinking about the ceremony that would happen when the humans joined the Confederation. There would be speeches and parties. The news would spread across the galaxy. Another primitive species had been brought into civilization. The ambassador had already written most of his report in his mind. The humans were typical for their level of development. They were aggressive but not dangerous. They had some interesting technology, but nothing that threatened established species. They would make good workers in the mines and factories that the Confederation needed. "Sir," Yola said, "there is one more thing in the report." "What now?" The humans have been sending radio signals into space for over 100 years. Some of these signals contain information about their military. Zthar laughed again. "Their military? You mean their armies that fight with chemical explosives and metal bullets? Yela, we have seen their best weapons. They are nothing compared to what we carry on this ship." "Yes, sir, but some of our analysts think the humans might be hiding their real capabilities." The ambassador stood up quickly. His scales changed color slightly, showing his annoyance. "Hiding? From whom?" "They did not even know we existed until 5 years ago when they found that old trade station. How could they hide anything from us?" Yela looked down at her feet. "I am sorry, sir. I'm just reporting what the analysts said." The analysts worry. "Too much, that is their job. But I have been doing this for 200 years. I know how new species behave. The humans will follow the same pattern as all the others." The ship's computer made a soft sound. A new message appeared on the screens around the room. It was from the Confederation Council back on the capital world. "Ambassador Zthar," the message said, "you are authorized to offer the human standard. Client species status. Do not give them access to military technology. Do not allow them to keep their independence. The Council expects this mission to be completed within 30 days. Zthar read the message and smiled. 30 days was much more time than he needed. Most species agreed to join the Confederation within a few hours of first contact. "Yela, send a message back to the Council. Tell them we will complete this mission in less than 2 weeks." "Yes, sir." "Should I also send our travel schedule to the human governments?" "No, we will arrive unannounced. It is better to surprise them. Surprise makes species more willing to cooperate." The ambassador walked back to the window. The star called Sol was getting brighter. Soon he would be able to see the planets around it. Earth was the third planet from the star. It was blue and green with white clouds covering parts of it. The scouts said it was very beautiful. Zthar wondered what the humans would think when they saw his ship. Would they be afraid? Would they be excited? It did not matter. In the end, they would all bow to the power of the Confederation. The galaxy was a dangerous place. There were species that could destroy planets with single weapons. There were ancient machines that killed anything that came near them. There were space storms that could tear apart entire solar systems. The Confederation offered protection from all of these things. Of course, that protection came with a price. Client species had to give up their independence. They had to follow Confederation laws. They had to trade only with approved partners. They had to ask permission before building new types of ships or weapons. But most species were happy with this arrangement. They got safety, technology, and medicine in exchange for their freedom. It was a fair trade. The ambassador was sure the humans would see it the same way. 2 days later, the Confederation ship reached the edge of the human solar system. Zthar stood on the bridge, watching the screens that showed nearby space. The bridge was large and circular, with stations for 20 crew members. Most of them were from different planets, but they all wore the same blue uniforms. "Sir," said the ship's captain, "we are detecting human vessels." "Show me." The main screen lit up with images of human ships. They looked exactly like the pictures in the scout reports. Rough metal hulls, primitive engines, small weapons that looked like toys. "How many ships?" Zthar asked. 12 ships in this area. They appear to be patrol vessels. Each one has about 50 crew members. The ambassador nodded. Good. Send them a message. Tell them we come in peace and want to talk to their leaders. Yes, sir. The message was sent using basic radio waves, the only type of communication the humans understood. Within an hour they received a reply. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. Zthar smiled. Earth Defense Force? How cute. He wondered what they thought they were defending against. Send this reply, he told the communications officer. We are representatives of the Galactic Confederation. We wish to meet with your leaders to discuss joining our organization. And there was a long pause before the humans replied. Please wait while we contact our government. Do not approach Earth until you receive further instructions. The ambassador laughed. They want to give us instructions? These primitives are amusing, but he was not worried. This was all normal. New species always tried to act important when they first met the Confederation. It made them feel better about themselves. Soon the humans would learn their place in the galaxy. 3 days passed before the humans sent another message. Ambassador Zthar was getting annoyed. No species had ever made him wait this long. He walked around his ship, checking on his crew and reading reports about human society. The reports made him feel better. Humans were divided into many different countries that often fought with each other. They had wars over resources, land, and ideas. Their weapons were crude chemical explosives and metal projectiles. They had never fought a real space battle. Sir, Yola said, entering his private room. The humans have sent a message. They want to meet at a space station near their 4th planet. Zthar looked up from his reading. Mars? They call it Mars? Why not meet on Earth? They say their leaders are busy with other matters. The space station is more convenient, the ambassador thought about this. It was unusual, but not completely strange. Some species preferred to meet in neutral locations for first contact. Very well. How long? To reach this station? 6 hours, sir. Good. Prepare the ceremonial robes and the standard gift packages. Make sure the translation devices are working properly. Yila bowed slightly. Yes, sir. Should we bring guards? No, these humans have no weapons that can threaten us. And bringing guards might make them nervous. The journey to Mars took exactly 6 hours. As they approached the human space station, Zthar studied it through the ship's sensors. The station was small and basic, made of metal tubes connected together in a simple pattern. It looked like something a child might build with construction toys. Sir, the ship's captain said, the human station is requesting permission to guide U.S. to a docking port. Granted, let them feel important. The Confederation ship was much larger than the human station. When they docked, the station shook slightly from the contact. Zthar put on his best diplomatic robes, which were made of silver fabric that changed colors in different light. He also wore the symbols of his rank, carved from precious stones from his homeworld. Remember, he told his team as they prepared to leave the ship, these humans are primitives. Be patient with them, speak slowly and use simple words. Do not show any technology that might frighten them. The airlock opened, and the ambassador stepped into the human station. The first thing he noticed was the smell. It was different from the clean, processed air on his ship. This air smelled like metal, plastic, and something else he could not identify. The second thing he noticed was the humans themselves. A woman in a dark blue uniform was waiting for them. She was tall for a human, with short gray hair and calm eyes. Behind her stood 6 other humans, also in uniforms. They did not look nervous or excited. They looked professional. Ambassador Zthar, the woman said, stepping forward. I am Admiral Sarah Chun, representing the United Earth Government. Welcome to Armstrong Station. The ambassador was surprised. Her voice was steady and confident. Most species were either frightened or extremely excited during first contact. These humans seemed almost bored. Admiral Chun, he replied, using his most diplomatic voice. I am honored to meet you. I bring greetings from the Galactic Confederation and an offer that will change your species forever. Admiral Chun nodded politely. Please follow me too. The conference room. We have prepared refreshments that should be safe for your biology. As they walked through the station corridors, Zthar looked around. The walls were covered with metal panels, and bright lights hung from the ceiling. Everything looked functional, but not beautiful. This was clearly a military station, not a place for tourists. The conference room was larger than he expected. It had a long table in the center with chairs around it. Large windows showed the red surface of Mars below. The view was actually quite impressive. "Please sit wherever you are comfortable," Admiral Chun said. "Would you like something to drink? We have water, or we can synthesize something closer to what your species prefers." Zthar sat down, arranging his robes carefully. "Water will be fine, thank you." As they settled around the table, the ambassador studied the human delegation. Admiral Chun was clearly in charge, but the others also looked important. One was an older man with white hair and many decorations on his uniform. Another was a younger woman with dark skin who kept making notes on a small device. "Admiral," Zthar began, "I assume your government has briefed you on why we are here. Yes, you want to discuss membership in your Galactic Confederation. Not just membership, protection, guidance, a chance for your species to join the civilized galaxy." Admiral Chun leaned back in her chair. "Tell us more about this confederation. How many species belong to it?" "Over 400 species across this part of the galaxy. We maintain peace, trade, and mutual cooperation among all member worlds." "And what would membership require from Earth?" Zthar smiled. This was the easy part. He had given this speech so many times he could do it without thinking. "The Confederation would provide your species with advanced medical technology that could eliminate most diseases. We would give you clean energy sources that never run out. We would share agricultural techniques that could feed your entire population without harming your environment. We would protect you from the dangerous species that exist in this galaxy." He paused to let this sink in. Usually by this point, the new species was getting very excited, but Admiral Chun just nodded calmly. "And in exchange?" "In exchange, Earth would become a client member of the Confederation. You would follow our guidelines for technology development. You would trade exclusively with approved Confederation partners. You would contribute resources and workers to common Confederation projects." "I see. And if we chose not to accept this offer?" Zthar was surprised by the question. No species had ever asked this before. Well, that would be unfortunate. Independent species rarely survive long in the galaxy. There are many dangers you do not yet understand. What kind of dangers? The ambassador leaned forward. Hostile species with weapons that could destroy your entire planet. Ancient automated defense systems left by extinct civilizations. Space storms that can tear apart solar systems. Pirates and raiders who prey on unprotected worlds. Admiral Chun exchanged glances with her colleagues. "And the Confederation protects against all of these threats?" "Of course. We have the largest fleet in the galaxy. Our technology is far advanced beyond anything you can imagine. No hostile force would dare attack a Confederation member." The older man with white hair spoke for the first time. "Admiral Chun, perhaps we should show our guests the reports from the Outer Rim." Admiral Chun nodded. "Good idea, General Harrison." She turned to Zthar. "Ambassador, we have been monitoring galactic communications for some time. We are aware of the Confederation and its ... methods." Zthar felt confused. "Monitoring our communications? How is that possible?" "Your technology is far too primitive to intercept our signals." "Is it?" Admiral Chun touched a control panel built into the table. A screen appeared on the wall, showing star maps and data that looked very familiar to the ambassador. "This is information from your own intelligence networks," Admiral Chun continued. "Trade routes, fleet positions, resource extraction quotas from client species. Very interesting reading." The ambassador stared at the screen. The information displayed was classified at the highest levels of the Confederation. "How could these primitives have access to it? Where did you get this?" he demanded. From the same sources you use to gather intelligence about us, Admiral Chun replied calmly. The difference is, we have been watching you for much longer than you have been watching us. Yila leaned over to whisper in Zthar's ear. Sir, this is impossible. Our security protocols are unbreakable. Admiral Chun must have heard the whisper because she smiled slightly. Your security protocols assume that only Confederation-level technology can break them. That assumption might be incorrect. The ambassador felt a cold feeling in his stomach. This was not going according to plan. New species were supposed to be amazed by Confederation technology, not casually discussing how they had broken Confederation. Security. Admiral, he said, trying to regain control of the conversation. Even if you have somehow obtained this information, you must understand that the Confederation's offer is genuine. We truly want to help your species advance. Advance? Toward what? Asked the younger woman with dark skin. Becoming workers in your mines? Providing raw materials for your factories? Following your laws instead of our own? Those are the responsibilities that come with membership, Zthar said stiffly. Every species contributes according to its abilities. And every species gives up its independence, Admiral Chun added. We have read the actual terms of Confederation membership, not just the recruiting materials you show to new species. The ambassador was becoming frustrated. These humans were supposed to be primitive and grateful. Instead, they seemed to know more about the Confederation than most member species. Admiral Chun, he said, you are making a serious mistake? The galaxy is a dangerous place for independent species. Without Confederation protection, Earth will not survive. Perhaps. But we prefer to take our chances as a free species rather than accept comfortable slavery. Slavery? Zthar stood up. Quickly, the Confederation does not practice slavery. We offer partnership. Partnership implies equality, General Harrison said. Can client species leave the Confederation if they choose? Well, no. Once a species joins, leaving would be complicated. Can client species develop their own military technology? No, but they do not need to. The Confederation provides all necessary protection. Can client species form alliances with non-Confederation worlds? No, but again, this is not necessary. The Confederation provides all the trade partners and diplomatic contacts that any species needs. Admiral Chun leaned forward. Ambassador, you are describing a system where Earth would give up every aspect of its sovereignty in exchange for protection we have not asked for and technology we may not need. You do need our protection, Zthar said, his voice rising slightly. You have no idea what threats exist in this galaxy. Actually, we do, Admiral Chun touched the control panel again. The screen changed to show detailed information about various hostile species, their military capabilities, and their territorial claims. We know about the Kresh Empire and their habit of enslaving primitive worlds. We know about the Machine Collective and their expansion into organic space. We know about the pirates of the Void Ring and their raids on shipping lanes. The ambassador stared at the screen in shock. This information was gathered from deep space monitoring, diplomatic reports, and military intelligence that took the Confederation decades to collect. How could these humans have it? We also know, Admiral Chun continued, about the 17 species that have requested independence from the Confederation in the past 50 years and what happened to them. Zthar's scales began to change color slightly, showing his emotional state. Those species were relocated for their own safety. Relocated to mining worlds and agricultural colonies, where they now work under Confederation oversight. Yes, we know. The room fell silent. The ambassador looked around at the human faces. They were calm, professional, and completely unimpressed by everything he had told them. Admiral, he said finally, what exactly do you want? We want to be left alone to develop as we choose. We are willing to establish trade relationships with the Confederation and its members. We are willing to sign non-aggression pacts. But we will not surrender our independence. That is not how the galaxy works, Zthar said. Independent species are either conquered by hostile forces or they join the Confederation. There is no middle ground. Admiral Chun stood up. Then perhaps it is time for the galaxy to change. The ambassador felt a chill. Those words were almost exactly what the last independent species had said. Just before the Confederation Navy had been forced to remove their government for the good of galactic stability. Admiral Chun, he said carefully, I think you do not fully understand the forces at work in this galaxy. The Confederation maintains peace through strength. If we allowed every species to remain independent, chaos would result. Chaos or competition? Asked General Harrison. The Confederation has a monopoly on advanced technology and military power. The monopoly allows you to control trade, resources, and entire civilizations. An independent Earth would threaten that monopoly. Zthar realized that these humans understood far more about galactic politics than he had expected. They were not naive primitives who could be easily impressed. They were calculating the costs and benefits of Confederation membership, and they had decided the costs were too high. I will need to report this conversation to the Confederation Council, he said. Of course, Admiral Chun replied, and we will need to report it to our government. Perhaps we can arrange another meeting in a few days to continue our discussion. As the ambassador and his team prepared to leave, he noticed something that made him pause. Through the conference room windows, he could see several human ships patrolling near the station. They looked larger than the ships in his intelligence reports. Admiral, he said, those patrol ships look different from the vessels our scouts. Observe, Admiral Chun looked out the window. Oh, those. Yes, we have been upgrading our fleet recently. Technology advances quickly when you have proper motivation. What kind of motivation? Admiral Chun smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. The kind that comes from knowing your independence might be threatened. As Zthar returned to his ship, he felt deeply troubled. This first contact was not going according to any plan he had ever made. The humans were not behaving like any species he had encountered before. Worse, they seemed to know things about the Confederation that only member governments should know. How was that possible? And why did Admiral Chun seem so confident that Earth could survive as an independent world? As his ship undocked from the human station, the ambassador decided he needed to send a priority message to the Confederation Council. The situation was becoming complicated in ways he did not understand. But first, he wanted to see what those upgraded human ships could actually do. Ambassador Zthar stood in his ship's command center, staring at the communication device in his hands. He had written and rewritten his message to the Confederation Council 3 times. Each version sounded more ridiculous than the last. How? Could he explain that the primitive humans had somehow obtained classified Confederation intelligence? How could he tell the Council that Earth was refusing membership? No species had ever refused before. Sir, Captain Vorik said from his position at the sensor station, I am detecting unusual energy readings from the human patrol ships. Zthar looked up from his message. What kind of energy readings? Unknown, sir. The signatures are unlike anything in our database. The ships appear to be scanning our vessel. Scanning us? The ambassador moved quickly to the sensor display. With what kind of sensors? I cannot determine that, sir. The scanning method is completely unfamiliar. Zthar felt another wave of unease. First, the humans had shown knowledge they should not possess. Now they were using technology that Confederation science could not identify. Sir, Yala said, entering the command center. We just received a message from Admiral Chun. She says Earth's leadership has reviewed our offer and would like to arrange another meeting. When? Tomorrow, sir. But there is something else. She says that Earth's official response to our diplomatic mission is already on its way and should arrive within the next few days. The ambassador frowned. Their response is coming here? What does that mean? I do not know, sir. The message was not clear about details. Zthar thought about this. Most species sent their responses through normal diplomatic channels. They did not send physical ships to deliver messages unless... Captain Vorik, scan the outer system. Look for approaching vessels. Yes, sir? The captain worked at his controls for several minutes. Sir, I am detecting a large object at the edge of the system. It appears to be moving toward us. A ship? I believe so, sir, but the size readings seem incorrect. Show me. The main display screen lit up with sensor data. Zthar looked at the numbers and shook his head. These readings cannot be right. Check the sensors again. Captain Vorik ran the scan 3 more times. Each time, the results were the same. Sir, according to our instruments, the approaching object is approximately 2,000 meters in length. 2,000 meters? Zthar stared at the screen. That cannot be correct. The largest human ship in our intelligence files is only 300 meters long. Sir, our intelligence files might be wrong, Yella said quietly. The ambassador turned to look at her. Wrong? How could they be wrong? We have been monitoring human space activity for 20 years. Maybe we have been monitoring what they wanted? You is to see, she replied. The idea hit Zthar like a physical blow. What if the small, crude ships his scouts had observed were not the real human fleet? What if they were decoys, designed to make humanity appear weak and unprepared? Sir, Captain, Vorik said, the object will reach our position in approximately 18 hours. Zthar paced around the command center. Everything about this mission was going wrong. The humans were not behaving like primitives. They had technology that should not exist. And now something enormous was coming toward them. Send a message. To the Confederation Council, he ordered. Tell them we need immediate military support. Sir, are you declaring an emergency? Yilla asked. I am declaring a situation that requires investigation. Something is not right about these humans. The next 18 hours passed very slowly. Zthar could not sleep. He kept checking the sensor readings, hoping they would change. But the massive object kept getting closer, and the readings kept showing the same impossible size. Sir, Captain, Vorik called out. The object is dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Zthar rushed to the command center. Show me everything our sensors can detect. The main screen came alive with data. At first, there was just empty space where the object should be. Then, slowly, something began to appear. It started as a shadow, barely visible against the stars. Then the shadow grew larger and darker. Finally, the ship became fully visible, and Zthar felt his breath catch in his throat. The vessel was enormous. It stretched across the view screen like a metal mountain floating in space. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, with scars and marks that showed it had been in many battles. Strange weapons protruded from its sides, weapons that looked nothing like anything in Confederation databases. By the ancient gods, Captain Vorik whispered, how is such a thing possible? The ship's hull bore symbols and markings that were clearly human, but the design was unlike anything they had seen before. It was not crude or primitive. It was sleek and deadly, built by engineers who understood war. Sir, the communications officer called out, we are receiving a transmission from the vessel. Put it on the main screen. The image of a human appeared on the display. He was an older man with gray hair and a face marked by years of command experience. He wore a uniform that was more elaborate than the ones worn by Admiral Chun's team. Ambassador. Zthar, the human said. I am Admiral Marcus Webb, commander of the UESS Colossus. I bring greetings from the people of Earth. Zthar stared at the screen. The name of the ship was fitting. Colossus, indeed. Admiral Webb, he managed to say, your vessel is larger than we expected. Admiral Webb smiled. Yes, I imagine it is. The Colossus is one of our newer ships. We completed her construction about 2 years ago. 2 years? Zthar could not hide his shock. You built this in 2 years? The hull took 2 years. We have been working on the design for much longer. Behind Admiral Webb, Zthar could see the bridge of the human ship. It was enormous, with dozens of crew members working at control stations. The technology visible in the background looked advanced, far more advanced than anything in his intelligence reports. Admiral Webb, Zthar said, trying to regain his composure, I was not aware that humanity possessed such shipbuilding capabilities. There are many things about humanity that the Confederation is not aware of, Admiral Webb replied. Perhaps. It is time to correct some of those misunderstandings. I would be very interested to learn more. Excellent. Please prepare to receive visitors. I am sending a shuttle to your ship. Zthar felt panic rising in his chest. Visitors? That will not be necessary. I can come to your ship if you prefer. No, Ambassador. I insist. My people will be there in 30 minutes. The transmission ended, leaving Zthar staring at a blank screen. He turned to Captain Vorik. How many ships are with the Colossus? I am detecting at least 12 other vessels, sir. They appear to be cruisers and destroyers. Each one is larger than anything in our files about human capabilities. Zthar felt sick. 12 ships, all larger and more advanced than expected. This was not a diplomatic mission. This was a fleet. Sir, Yula said, should we prepare to receive the human delegation? Do we have a choice? Zthar replied bitterly. 30 minutes later, a human shuttle docked with the Confederation ship. Zthar waited in the main airlock, dressed in his most formal robes. He had no idea what to expect. The airlock opened and 5 humans stepped through. They wore different uniforms than Admiral Chin's team. These uniforms were darker, with more military decorations. The humans themselves looked older, more experienced. The leader was a woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes. She stepped forward and extended her hand in the human greeting gesture. Ambassador Zthar, she said. I am General Patricia Stone, Earth Defense Command. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Zthar shook her hand cautiously. General Stone, I admit I am curious about your vessel. Our intelligence suggested that humanity did not possess ships of that size. General Stone smiled. Your intelligence was designed to suggest exactly that. We have been very careful about what information we allowed the Confederation to observe. You deliberately deceived our scouts? We protected ourselves? When a species discovers that a powerful galactic organization has been watching them for decades without permission, caution seems wise. Zthar led the human delegation to the same conference room where he had met with Admiral Chun as they walked through the ship's corridors. He noticed the humans looking at everything with professional interest. Your ship is beautiful, General Stone said. Very elegant design, built for diplomacy rather than war. The Confederation prefers peaceful solutions to problems, Zthar replied. As do we, but we have learned that peace must sometimes be defended with strength. They sat around the conference table, and Zthar found himself in the strange position of being a guest on his own ship. The humans seemed completely comfortable, as if they were used to such meetings. General Stone, he said, I must ask. Directly, how long has humanity known about the Confederation? We first detected your communications networks 34 years ago. We have been monitoring galactic politics ever since. 34 years? Zthar was stunned. But you only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. We achieved the type of faster-than-light travel that you know about 50 years ago, General Stone corrected. We have had other methods for much longer. Other methods? Methods that we developed in secret specifically to avoid Confederation. Attention. The ambassador felt the world shifting around him. Everything he thought he knew about humanity was wrong. They were not primitive newcomers to the galaxy. They were a species that had been preparing for this moment for decades. General, he said slowly, what exactly does humanity want? What? We have always wanted. The right to exist as a free and independent species. The right to develop our own technology, make our own alliances, and choose our own path among the stars. The Confederation offers protection and guidance to all species. Why would you reject such benefits? General Stone leaned back in her chair. Ambassador, we have studied the Confederation for 3 decades. We know what happened to the Aldari when they tried to leave. We know about the forced relocations of the Vorthek. We know about the mining quotas imposed on the Kelleran worlds. Zthar felt his scales changing color again. The Aldari incident was classified at the highest levels. The Vorthek relocations were not public knowledge. How could these humans know about such things? You seem surprised that we know about these events, General Stone continued. Did you think they could be hidden forever? Those situations were complex, Zthar said defensively. The species involved were not capable of governing themselves effectively, according to Confederation standards. But who gave the Confederation the right to decide what constitutes effective self-governance? The ambassador had no good answer to that question. The Confederation had assumed that right through strength and tradition, but it had never been formally granted by anyone. General Stone, he said, even if humanity has better technology than we realized, you cannot stand against the entire Confederation. We have hundreds of member worlds and thousands of ships. You have thousands of ships designed to intimidate primitive species and suppress rebellions among client worlds. How many of those ships were designed to fight an enemy with equal or superior technology? Zthar thought about this question. The truth was that the Confederation had not fought a real war in over 200 years. Their fleet was designed for peacekeeping and enforcement, not for major combat operations. The Confederation maintains peace through strength, he said. Through overwhelming force against weaker opponents? General Stone corrected. That strategy works until you encounter an opponent who is not weaker. You believe humanity is stronger than the Confederation? I believe humanity is strong enough to make the cost of conquering us higher than the Confederation is willing to pay. The conference room fell silent. Zthar looked around at the human faces and saw no fear, no doubt. These people believed they could resist the most powerful organization in the galaxy. General, he said finally, what happens now? Now we wait to see how the Confederation responds to Earth's refusal to become a client state. We hope for peace, but we are prepared for other possibilities. And if the Confederation decides that humanity poses a threat to galactic stability? General Stone stood up. Then the Confederation will discover that humanity has been preparing for that possibility for a very long time. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Zthar realized that his entire understanding of the galactic situation had changed. Humanity was not a primitive species waiting to be absorbed into the Confederation. They were a potential rival with unknown capabilities and decades of preparation. General Stone, he called as she reached the airlock. One more question. How many ships like the Colossus does Earth possess? She turned back with a smile that was not entirely friendly. Ambassador, that would be telling. But I will say this, the Colossus is not our largest ship. After the humans left, Zthar stood alone in the airlock for a long time. He had to write a report to the Confederation Council, but he was not sure they would believe what he had to tell them. Humanity was not going to be another easy conquest. They were going to be a problem that the Confederation had never faced before. And they had been preparing for this confrontation for 34 years. Ambassador Zthar sat in his private quarters staring at the report he had been trying to write for 6 hours. Every time he put words on the screen, they seemed impossible to believe. How could he tell the Confederation Council that humanity had been deceiving them for 30 years? How could he explain that Earth possessed military technology that their best scientists could not understand? The door chimed, and Yila entered without waiting for permission. Her green skin was pale, and her large eyes showed fear. Sir, she said, we have a problem, a very big problem. Zthar looked up from his writing. What now? The Confederation Council has sent a message. They are ordering us to complete the human integration within 24 hours, or they will send the Fifth Fleet to handle the situation. The ambassador felt his blood turn cold. The Fifth Fleet was the Confederation's largest military force. It contained over 200 warships, including some of the most powerful vessels ever built. They cannot be serious, he said. Sending the Fifth Fleet would be seen as an act of war. The Council believes that humanity is bluffing about their military capabilities. They think the Colossus is just a large transport ship with fake weapons. Zthar stood up quickly. Fake weapons? Did they not read my preliminary reports? They read them, sir. But Council Member Thek said that your observations were impossible. He said that no species could develop such technology without Confederation knowledge. The ambassador felt anger rising in his chest. Council member Thex was an old fool who believed that the Confederation knew everything about the galaxy. He had never worked in the field, never met with unknown species, never had his assumptions challenged. Sir, Yilla continued, there is more. The humans have detected the Fifth Fleet's departure from Confederation space. Admiral Chen has requested another meeting. How could they detect fleet movements in Confederation space? That is impossible. Sir, perhaps we should stop saying things are impossible when it comes to these humans. 20 minutes later, Zthar found himself back in the conference room on the human space station. Admiral Chen was there again, along with General Stone and several other humans he had not met before. But this time, Admiral Webb from the Colossus was also present, appearing on a large screen. Ambassador, Admiral Chen said as soon as he sat down, we need to discuss the Confederation fleet that is currently heading toward Earth. Zthar tried to look surprised. Fleet? I am not aware of any fleet movements. Ambassador, General Stone said quietly, we have been monitoring Confederation military communications for years. We know that the Fifth Fleet left its base 18 hours ago. We know their route, their speed, and their estimated arrival time. The ambassador gave up pretending. The Council believes that your refusal to join the Confederation represents a threat to galactic stability. And what do you believe? Admiral Chun asked. Zthar thought carefully before answering. I believe that the Council does not understand the situation here. They think humanity is bluffing about your capabilities. Are we bluffing? Admiral Webb asked from the screen. I do not know. Your ship is certainly impressive, but one ship cannot fight 200. Admiral Webb smiled. You are right. One ship cannot fight 200. That is why the Colossus is not alone. The screen behind Admiral Webb changed to show a view of space around the Colossus. Zthar gasped at what he saw. The space around the massive ship was filled with other vessels. Not just the 12 ships he had detected earlier, but dozens of them. Cruisers, destroyers, and ships he could not identify spread out in a defensive formation that stretched for thousands of kilometers. How many ships do you have here? He asked weakly. Enough, Admiral Chun replied. But Admiral, we do not want a war. We want to find a peaceful solution to this situation. The Council will not accept Earth's independence, Zthar said. They see it as a dangerous precedent. If Earth remains independent, other species might try to leave the Confederation. And would that be such a terrible thing? General Stone asked. The Confederation maintains galactic peace. Without it, there would be chaos. The Confederation maintains galactic control, Admiral Webb corrected from the screen. There is a difference. Zthar looked around the room at the human faces. These people did not look like warmongers. They looked like beings who simply wanted to be left alone to live their own lives. What do you propose? He asked. Admiral Chun leaned forward. We propose a demonstration. What kind of demonstration? The kind that will convince the Confederation Council that attacking Earth would be a very expensive mistake. Before Zthar could ask what she meant, alarms began sounding on his ship. Captain Vorik's voice came through the communication system. Ambassador, please return to the ship immediately. We are detecting massive energy buildups from the human fleet. Zthar looked at Admiral Chun in alarm. What are you doing? Showing you what we are capable of, she replied calmly. You might want to watch this from your ship's sensors. The ambassador and his team rushed back to their vessel. In the command center, Captain Vorik was staring at his instruments with wide eyes. Sir, the captain said, the human ships are powering up weapon systems unlike anything I have ever seen. The energy readings are off our scales. Show me, Zthar ordered. The main screen displayed a view of the human fleet. The ships had arranged themselves in a complex formation, with the Colossus at the center. Energy was building up along their hulls, creating patterns of light that were both beautiful and terrifying. Sir, the sensor officer called out, they are targeting the asteroid field near the fourth planet. Zthar watched as the human fleet opened fire. The weapons they used were not lasers or particle beams like Confederation ships carried. They were something else entirely. Streams of energy that seemed to bend space itself reached out from the human ships toward the distant asteroid field when the weapons struck their targets. The results were devastating. Asteroids that had existed for millions of years simply disappeared. Not destroyed or broken apart, but completely removed from existence. The energy weapons reached across thousands of kilometers of space and eliminated everything they touched. By the ancient gods, Captain Vorik whispered. What kind of weapons are those? The demonstration lasted only 30 seconds, but in that time, the human fleet had erased an entire asteroid field from space. When it was over, nothing remained but empty vacuum where thousands of space rocks had been floating moments before. Zthar's communication system activated, and Admiral Chin's voice filled the command center. Ambassador, we hope that demonstration was educational. We want you to understand that Earth is prepared to defend itself if necessary. The ambassador stared at the empty space where the asteroids had been. Admiral, what kind of technology is that? The kind that we developed specifically to defend against Confederation aggression. We have been studying your military doctrine for 3 decades, Ambassador. We know how your ships fight, what weapons they carry, and what tactics they use. We designed our fleet to counter all of those advantages. Zthar felt sick. The Confederation had built their power on technological superiority. If humanity had weapons that could simply erase matter from existence, what chance did conventional Confederation ships have? Sir, Yila said quietly, we should send a message to the Fifth Fleet. They need to know what they are flying into. The Fifth Fleet will not believe this report, Captain Vorik said. Admiral Korthek commands that fleet. He believes that Confederation technology is supreme in the galaxy. Zthar knew that Captain Vorik was right. Admiral Korthek was even more arrogant than Council Member Thex. He would see any report about advanced human weapons as evidence of cowardice or deception. Sir, the communications officer called out, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through. Admiral Webb appeared on the screen again. Ambassador, we have a proposal for you. I am listening. Send a message to your Fifth Fleet. Tell them to stop their approach and return to Confederation space. In return, we will allow you to leave this system safely and report to your council that Earth cannot be conquered without massive losses. The Fleet Admiral will not accept such a message from me, Zthar said. He will think I have been compromised or intimidated. Then bring him here to see for himself, Admiral Chun said, appearing on the screen beside Admiral Webb. Let him witness what his fleet would face if they attack Earth. Zthar thought about this proposal. It was reasonable, but he knew Admiral Korthek. The Fleet Admiral was proud and aggressive. He would see any invitation to negotiate as a sign of weakness. Admiral Korthek is not a diplomatic officer, he said. He is a military commander who believes in solving problems with superior firepower. Then perhaps it is time for him to learn that superior firepower is not always enough, Admiral Webb replied. Over the next several hours, Zthar exchanged messages with the approaching Fifth Fleet. As he had predicted, Admiral Korthek refused to consider stopping his advance. The Fleet Admiral sent back increasingly angry replies, demanding that the ambassador complete his mission immediately. The humans are deceiving you, Admiral Korthek's final message said. No primitive species could possess the weapons you describe. I will arrive in 72 hours and resolve this situation properly. Zthar showed this message to the human delegation during another meeting on the space station. Admiral Korthek does not believe that your weapons are real, he told them. Then he will learn the truth when he arrives, Admiral Chung replied. But Ambassador, we want you to understand something. We do not want to destroy Confederation ships. We do not want to kill Confederation crews. But we will defend ourselves. If we are attacked, what are you asking me to do? Help us find a way to avoid this battle, General Stone said. You have influence with your government. Use it to convince them that conquering Earth is not worth the cost. Zthar looked around at the human faces. These people were offering him a chance to prevent a war that could change the entire galaxy. But they were also asking him to betray everything he had been taught about Confederation superiority. "If I send a report that supports your position," he said slowly, "the Council will remove me from my position. They might even charge me with treason. And if you do not send such a report," Admiral Webb said from the screen, "you will be responsible for the deaths of thousands of Confederation crew members when Admiral Korthek attacks our fleet." The ambassador sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, he spoke. "What exactly do you want me to tell the Council?" Admiral Chien smiled. "Tell them the truth. Tell them that humanity has been preparing for this confrontation for 30 years. Tell them that Earth possesses military technology that could devastate any fleet sent against us. Tell them that we are willing to coexist peacefully with the Confederation, but only as equals, not as subjects. And tell them," Admiral Webb added, "that if they choose to attack Earth, they should be prepared for consequences that will reach far beyond this solar system." Zthar felt the weight of the galaxy's future pressing down on him. In 72 hours, the most powerful fleet in Confederation history would arrive at Earth. What happened then would determine whether the galaxy continued under Confederation rule or entered a new age of independent worlds. He had to make a choice that would change everything. "I will send your message to the Council," he said finally, "but I cannot guarantee they will listen." "We understand," Admiral Chun replied, "but thank you for trying." As Zthar returned to his ship to write the most important report of his career, he looked back at the human space station one last time. These remarkable beings had changed his understanding of what was possible in the galaxy. Now he had to convince the most powerful government in galactic history that they needed to change too. The next 72 hours would determine whether he succeeded or failed. 72 hours later, Admiral Korthek arrived with the Fifth Fleet exactly as he had promised. Zthar watched from his ship's command center as 200 Confederation warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. The sight should have filled him with pride and confidence. Instead, he felt only dread. The Fifth Fleet was magnificent to behold. The ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming silver in the light of the human star. Each vessel was a masterpiece of Confederation engineering, armed with the most advanced weapons in galactic space. At the center of the fleet was Admiral Korthek's flagship, the inevitable Victory, a massive battleship that had never lost a battle. "Sir," Captain Vorik said, "Admiral Korthek is requesting immediate communication." Zthar straightened his diplomatic robes. "Put him through." Admiral Korthek appeared on the main screen. He was a large being from the warrior planet Drex, with thick scales and small yellow eyes that burned with anger. His military uniform was covered with medals from dozens of campaigns against rebellious worlds. "Ambassador Zthar, Admiral," Korthek said in a voice like grinding stone, "explain to me why the Fifth Fleet was required to travel to this insignificant system." "Admiral, the situation here is more complex than the Council understood. The humans possess military capabilities that were not in our intelligence reports." Admiral Korthek's eyes narrowed. "You mean the large ship they brought to intimidate you?" "I have read your reports, Ambassador. One oversized transport vessel does not constitute a military threat." "Admiral, with respect, it is not just one ship. The humans have an entire fleet, and their weapons technology is unlike anything we have encountered." "Primitive weapons cannot threaten Confederation vessels," Admiral Korthek replied dismissively. "I will give these humans one opportunity to surrender. If they refuse, I will demonstrate why the Confederation rules the galaxy." The transmission ended, leaving Zthar staring at a blank screen. He knew that Admiral Korthek would not listen to warnings about human capabilities. The fleet admiral believed that superior numbers and firepower could solve any problem. "Sir," Yila said, "should we try to contact the humans?" "Yes, maybe they can still find a way to avoid this battle." But before Zthar could send a message, his communication system activated. Admiral Chun's voice filled the command center. "Ambassador Zthar, we assume you have seen the arrival of the Confederation fleet." "Yes, Admiral." I tried to warn Admiral Korthik about your capabilities, but he did not believe my reports. We expected as much. We have been monitoring Confederation military communications. We know that your fleet admiral plans to demand immediate surrender, followed by an attack if we refuse. That is correct. Admiral, it is not too late to negotiate. Perhaps you could make some compromise that would satisfy the Confederation. There was a long pause before Admiral Trun replied. Ambassador, 34 years ago, when we first detected Confederation signals, we made a decision. We decided that humanity would never bow to another species, no matter how powerful they claim to be. We have spent 3 decades preparing for this moment. We will not surrender our freedom now. Zthar felt his heart sink. Then there will be a battle. Yes, and Ambassador, you should move your ship to a safe distance. What is about to happen will be unlike anything the galaxy has seen for a very long time. The communication ended. Zthar immediately ordered Captain Vorik to move their ship away from both fleets. As they moved to a safe observation position, the ambassador watched the human fleet through his sensors. The Earth ships were still arranged in the same defensive formation around the Colossus. But now Zthar could see that there were far more of them than he had first realized. His sensors counted over 100 human vessels, including several that were even larger than the Colossus. Sir, Captain Vorik said, Admiral Korthik is broadcasting to the human fleet. Let me hear it. Admiral Korthik's voice filled the command center. Attention human vessels. I am Admiral Korthik of the Confederation 5th Fleet. You have refused a generous offer to join our organization. You have threatened our diplomatic representatives. You have committed acts of aggression against established galactic order. The Admiral paused for dramatic effect. I hereby demand your immediate and unconditional surrender. You have 30 minutes to respond. If you refuse, I will destroy every human ship in this system and occupy your homeworld. Zthar waited anxiously for the human response. When it came, it was not from Admiral Chun or Admiral Webb. Instead, a new voice spoke with calm authority. Admiral Korthik, this is Fleet Admiral Sarah Martinez, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. We have received your ultimatum. Our response is simple. Earth will never surrender to anyone. Then you have chosen death, Admiral Korthik replied. Attack formation, advance. The Confederation fleet began moving toward the human ships. 200 warships spread out in a massive assault formation that had conquered dozens of worlds. Their weapons powered up, creating a light show that could be seen across the solar system. But as the Confederation ships advanced, something unexpected happened. The human fleet did not retreat or scatter as most primitive species did when faced with overwhelming force. Instead, they moved forward to meet the attack. Sir, Captain Vorik said, his voice filled with amazement, the human ships are accelerating. They are moving faster than should be possible. Zthar watched in fascination as the Earth vessels demonstrated speed and maneuverability far beyond anything in Confederation databases. The human ships moved like living creatures, dancing through space with grace and precision. Sir, the sensor officer called out, the human ships are generating some kind of energy field around their hulls. Show me. The main screen displayed a close view of the approaching human fleet. Each ship was surrounded by a shimmering barrier of energy that seemed to bend space around it. The barriers pulsed with colors that hurt to look at directly. What kind of defensive system is that? Zthar asked. Unknown, sir. Our computers cannot analyze the energy patterns. The two fleets met in the space between Mars and Jupiter. Admiral Korthik's ships opened fire first, unleashing a barrage of energy weapons that should have destroyed any opposition. Streams of deadly radiation reached across space toward the human ships, but something impossible happened. When the Confederation weapons struck the energy barriers around the human ships, they simply disappeared. Not deflected or absorbed, but completely eliminated as if they had never existed. That is not possible, Captain Vorik whispered. The human fleet returned fire. Their weapons were the same type that had destroyed the asteroid field, but now Zthar could see them being used against ships designed for war. The results were terrifying. Wherever the human weapons touched Confederation vessels, matter simply ceased to exist. Huge sections of battleships disappeared instantly, leaving behind twisted wreckage that quickly broke apart. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for centuries were reduced to scrap metal in seconds. Admiral Korthak's voice filled the communication channels, screaming orders at his fleet. All ships, concentrate fire on the largest human vessel. Destroy their flagship. The entire Confederation fleet focused their weapons on the Colossus. Hundreds of energy beams struck the massive ship simultaneously. For a moment, the human vessel disappeared in a blaze of destructive energy. When the light faded, the Colossus was still there, its energy barriers glowing brighter than before. The ship had absorbed the combined firepower of 200 Confederation warships and suffered no visible damage. The human counterattack was swift and devastating. 3 Confederation battleships, including 2 of Admiral Korthak's most powerful vessels, were simply erased from existence. Their crews had no time to escape, no chance to surrender. "Sir," Eula said, her voice shaking, "we should send a message to the fleet, tell them to retreat." "Admiral Korthak will not retreat," Zthar replied sadly. "He has never lost a battle. He will keep fighting until every ship in his fleet is destroyed." The battle continued for 3 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The human ships moved through the Confederation fleet like predators among prey. Their weapons eliminated everything they touched, while their defenses made them nearly invulnerable to return fire. One by one, the pride of the Confederation Navy was reduced to floating debris. Ships that had conquered worlds, vessels that had maintained galactic peace for centuries, were destroyed by weapons that should not have existed. Admiral Korthak's flagship was among the last to fall. The inevitable victory lived up to its name by fighting longer than any other ship, but even it could not survive against human technology. When the great battleship finally succumbed to the strange energy weapons, Admiral Korthak's last transmission was a single word: impossible. When the battle ended, fewer than 30 Confederation ships remained out of the original 200. These survivors were badly damaged and barely functional. The human fleet had lost no ships and suffered no apparent damage. Fleet Admiral Martinez's voice filled the communication channels. "Attention surviving Confederation vessels. We offer you safe passage out of this system. Take word back to your government that Earth will defend itself against any future attacks." The surviving ships fled toward the edge of the system. Zthar watched them go, knowing that the galaxy had changed forever. The Confederation's reputation for invincibility was gone, destroyed along with the Fifth Fleet. "Sir," Captain Vorik said, "we are receiving a transmission from the human flagship." Admiral Martinez appeared on the screen. She was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and tired eyes. "Ambassador Zthar, we hope you observe today's events carefully. You will need to report them accurately to your government." "Admiral Martinez," Zthar said, "I will report exactly what I witnessed, but I must ask, what happens now?" "Now, the Confederation must decide whether to accept Earth as an independent world or continue this war. But you should know that what you saw today was only a small demonstration of our capabilities." "You have more ships?" "We have more of everything, Ambassador. We have been preparing for this war for 34 years. We built weapons specifically designed to defeat Confederation technology. We developed defenses that your science cannot penetrate. We created a military doctrine based on 3 decades of studying your tactics." Zthar felt overwhelming sadness. "The Council will not accept defeat. They will send larger fleets. Let them come. Each fleet they send will be destroyed. Just like the Fifth Fleet, eventually they will realize that conquering Earth is impossible." "And what about the rest of the galaxy? What about the other species under Confederation protection?" Admiral Martinez smiled sadly. "That will be up to them. We are not conquerors, Ambassador. We do not seek to rule other worlds. But any species that wants to break free from Confederation control will find Earth a willing ally." The transmission ended, leaving Zthar alone with the implications of what he had witnessed. The galaxy's most powerful military force had been destroyed by a species that the Confederation had dismissed as primitive. Worse, the humans had done it with apparent ease, suggesting that their true military capabilities were even greater than what they had displayed. Over the next few days, reports began arriving from across Confederation space. 3 client species had declared independence within hours of learning about the battle. Several more were openly questioning their membership agreements. The Confederation's monopoly on galactic power was crumbling. Zthar spent weeks writing his final report. He knew that the Council would not want to believe what he had to tell them, but he was determined to be honest about what he had seen. The age of Confederation dominance was ending, and a new era was beginning. The humans had proven that a determined species could stand against the galaxy's greatest power and win. More importantly, they had shown that freedom was worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. As his ship prepared to return to Confederation space, Zthar looked back at the human solar system one last time. The Earth fleet was still there, standing guard over their world, ready to defend their independence against any threat. The galaxy would never be the same. And perhaps, Zthar thought, that was not such a terrible thing after all.